Resident Evil Village is upon us, and with it comes the next chapter in Ethan Winter's story mixed in with that good old RE Engine gameplay we all know and love, plus some new mechanics and enemies to spice things up. No more shovel-wielding Jack Baker and his swampy family. Instead, we get the tall and gorgeous Lady Dimitrescu and her three daughters, among others. Now, at the time of this video, the game is 2 days away from release, and I cannot be any more excited to get my hands on it. And if you're anything like me, and you are excited to get your hands on it in like any way, shape, or form, then you've probably watched the trailers repeatedly and played the demos and just basically done all the research you need to do to prepare yourself to experience this seemingly very compelling continuation to Ethan's narrative. But what about the things that you don't need to know, things that, I swear, have nothing to do with anything? Hey everyone, it's Mox, and these are 10 things you don't need to know before playing Resident Evil Village. Number 10, you don't need to know long division. Ethan's story began in Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. It was a spooky, creepy, spine-tingling experience that provided genuinely heart-stopping moments with a gripping narrative and tight gameplay. And not for 1 second of it did you have to do any sort of math. Now, Village is set up to be a true continuation of the vibe that started with 7, so if it manages to stick to that fully, genuinely, then expect no long division or any sort of math in this game at all whatsoever. Number 9. You don't need to know that capybaras are the world's largest rodent. The trailers for Village showed us that hunting is being introduced into the game, which is a first for the franchise as far as I know. Players will be able to hunt pigs, poultry, and they'll be able to fish, among other things, to make meals in exchange for permanent upgrades for Ethan. What the game doesn't have, however, are capybaras, so there is literally no need for the information that they are the world's largest rodent. Number 8. You don't need to know that the farthest a single person has walked in 24 hours is 228.930 kilometers. For the first time in franchise history, Resident Evil 8 is being described as an open-world game. This is a major departure from the franchise's more linear approach to storytelling that it's followed since the beginning. This means that exploration will be a major aspect of the game, and that in the potentially dozen-plus hours of the game's runtime, Ethan will be walking a lot. Now, according to Guinness World Records, the farthest that a single male person has walked in the span of 24 hours is 228.930 kilometers. Will the game hit a runtime of over 24 hours? If it does, will Ethan beat that record? It literally does not matter. Number 7. You don't need to know that Netflix's Castlevania Season 4 will be its last. Vampires have always been a popular go-to for movies, games, books, and TV shows, and for good reason. And Resident Evil 8 is no different. Along with Lady Dimitrescu, Ethan will also have to deal with her three daughters Bella, Cassandra, and Daniela. And much like Marguerite Baker from Resident Evil 7, they carry with them the power of bugs. Are the three Dimitrescu daughters also vampires? Are they witches? We're so close to finding out. Oh, by the way, speaking of vampires, yeah, Netflix did announce that the upcoming season of Castlevania will be its last, but that has nothing to do with anything. Number 6. You don't need to know that Romania has 4 Nobel Prize laureates. Resident Evil Village takes place in the titular village somewhere in Romania. Well, allegedly in Romania. Literally, all the characters we met in the demo had American accents, but that's neither here nor there. George Emil Palade, Elie Wiesel, I probably said that name wrong, Herta Mueller, and Stefan Hell are all Nobel Prize laureates for medicine, peace, literature, and chemistry respectively, and they all hail from Romania, which is allegedly where the game is set. Number 5. You don't need to know that the term Black Friday was coined in the 1960s. Every year, consumers go crazy during the Black Friday sales. Now, considering the amount of stuff you can get for a relatively inexorbitant amount of money, I guess that's completely understandable. Now, the term originated in the 1960s when stores would move to using black ink for their accounting records, which would denote a profit, as opposed to using red ink, which would denote a loss. Resident Evil Village brings back the feature of an in-game merchant named the Duke, reminiscent of "What are you buying?" guy from Resi 4, which doubles down on how many cues Village is taking from 4. Will the Duke's wares get a price reduction like Black Friday? Unlikely, which is exactly why you didn't really need to know that fact. Number 4. You don't need to know that Jerry McCulloch is known as the greatest shooter of all time. According to Wikipedia, professional gun person Jerry McCulloch is widely regarded as the fastest and most proficient all-around speed and competition shooter in the world, emptying a 5-shot revolver in 0.57 seconds in a group the size of a playing card. Now that's impressive. In Resident Evil 7, Ethan barely knew what he was doing, often relying on just sheer determination to survive. But when you meet him in Village, the guy has become something of a badass, being a more accurate shot and being able to pull off some pretty fancy reloads. Now, is he a better gunslinger than Jerry McCulloch? Probably not, so that's exactly why this is not important. Number 3. You don't need to know that Anthony Hopkins once called Bryan Cranston's Walter White in Breaking Bad the best acting he has ever seen. Film icon and Oscar winner Anthony Hopkins once wrote Bryan Cranston a piece of fan mail widely praising Breaking Bad and Cranston's portrayal of the show's anti-hero protagonist Heisenberg. To anyone who's seen the show, you'd understand where Hopkins is coming from, as Heisenberg could probably be the greatest anti-hero ever. In Resident Evil Village, we meet another Heisenberg, the werewolf Carl Heisenberg, who is a pretty compelling anti-hero type character himself. Now, even though Ethan is shown to be fighting him in the trailer, we're still not 100% sure that he's really a bad guy. The point of this entry is, go watch Breaking Bad. Number 2. You don't need to know that Lady Dimitrescu is 9'6". One of the most compelling aspects of Resident Evil Village is the introduction of Lady Dimitrescu, who the internet was more than happy to dub as Tall Vampire Lady, or if you're freaky deaky, Vampire Mommy. She will spend the game stalking you, much like Jack and Marguerite from 7 or Mr. X and Nemesis from the 2 and 3 remakes. After the warm reception to her reveal in one of the trailers, the game's art director Tomonori Takano revealed that Vampire Mommy's height was 9'6", including her heels and her hat. Did we need this information? No, we did not. Are we happy to have this information? Well, yes, very, very much so. And the number one thing you don't need to know before playing Resident Evil Village is the story of Resident Evil. Well, most of them, at least. We've had a lot of fun with these 10 items, and it's been a very silly list, but it is no joke that you don't really need to know what's happening in most of the Resident Evil games out there to understand what's going to be happening in Village. Now, knowing what happened in 7, now that is a must. But considering that that game was almost like a soft reboot of sorts for the franchise, it's more or less the only one that you need to have played before jumping into this new one. Now, Chris Redfield is the thread that ties the larger franchise together, but he was sort of vaguely reintroduced in 7 with a brand new look and a brand new voice, all the while being canonically the same Chris that punched a boulder in half in Resi 5. In all seriousness, it's looking unlikely that you need to know anything about why Chris can punch a boulder in half to understand his arc in the new game. Now, this isn't discouraging anyone from experiencing the other games, just know that if you only care about Ethan's story, then you're 100% in the clear. It's dark behind me now. I started this whole video with the sun out, and now it's 2 a.m. Wonderful. But those are 10 things you don't need to know before playing Resident Evil Village. If you enjoyed this very stupid list, it's the usual: like, share, and subscribe. There's a notification bell down there if you want to be notified of new videos. Comment away if you're interested or excited to play the game. Also, comment away if you can think of other things that people don't need to know before playing the game. This is Majora's Mox reminding everybody to be excellent to one another. See ya.